Recently, EFI Hub sold their interest in the venture to UK-based private equity fund Acorn Capital for $10 million ahead of a planned Asia expansion for the latter. EFI Hub co-founder Shah joined us earlier for more on this.
Incubators or accelerators are good choices, especially for private equity funds in markets, in emerging and frontier markets of the world. A lot of time, these funds, they face challenge in deal sourcing. It's difficult to find a unicorn in the market, to know the team very closely, and to understand the business. These funds typically spend a lot of time in the due diligence and getting to know the business. And even after that, the challenges in scaling the business, it always has been a challenging part. My experience as a private equity professional was that when you come to Africa, you don't understand the geography, you don't understand the market, you don't understand what the founders are doing. You need to spend significantly long amount of time with these entities to understand if they are a good buy or not. When you route the investments through an incubator, you kind of minimize the risk, because an incubator has spent a lot of time with the founders. So they've met the founders, they have worked with them, they've worked on ideation, business planning, scaling the business, fundraising. So they've already been through a lot of cycles.
All right.
And they understand the requirements and the DNA of the business very well. So when you route it through an incubator, the job of a fund becomes much easier, because the chances of losing money on that investment is minimized. It becomes significantly lower, and so I think EFI Hub was a good choice for Acorn Capital, because Acorn Capital has been in the market, in African market, for a long time. They have and they work very hard to build an active pipeline of projects they can invest in eventually.
Right.
So if you're doing it through EFI Hub, you already have, we signed up 50 odd startups in last 1.5 years. So it makes sense for a private equity fund to leverage on our learnings of working with those startups, the network that we've built. And if you remember on your previous show, I said it like, our main objective was not just working with startups, but working with the entire ecosystem. So we were working with government entities, we were working with other professionals from all over the world. So what happens here is there's a strong network of angel investors, there's a strong network of subsequent buyers. Government entities, of course, very important in African markets. So we had that strong ecosystem built, and then it is easy to leverage on our expertise.
Anu, if you may allow me to jump in right there. Of course, you're speaking about investment, and rather that's very interesting. Tell me, what are some of the hottest sectors to invest in right now, as according to you?
Tech is obviously something I'm extremely bullish about in Africa. From my experience of being in the market, it is such a strong market, and repeatedly I have been saying in all my interviews or all my conversations with investors, buyers, Africa has a very young population. The economy is poised for strong growth. There's a lot of civil and political stability in the market. One of the highly buoyant market for internet and mobile phone or smartphone penetration. So tech always, all of these fundamentals are so strong in itself that it makes a very good market for tech investments in the long run. Even within tech, I am most bullish about fintech. And that's what we did with EFI Hub. We were bullish on fintech, on healthcare, and tourism. And all of these three sectors are, again, supported a lot by government entities as well in the respective markets. So that's the route to take further.
All right, Anu, we know that you made a sale to Acorn Capital, of course, of about $10 million US. Tell me, what happens after the sale?
What they would do is basically they will rejig the portfolio. Some of the startups which they think are at an advanced stage and are investment ready, they will directly invest in the assets, buy the stake further. With the other startups, it continues to remain as is, where we build the network, but they will then merge it with their own expertise and their own network and continue to support them as and when required in terms of capital support or ideation, business planning, scaling, etc.
Does Acorn Capital take 100% of EFI Hub, or they just have a particular percentage?
No, it's a complete takeover. They've taken over 100% of EFI Hub.
Wow. All right. Now, we also got some news that you're spending 100% of the proceedings from this sale towards philanthropy. Tell me more about this.
So I own 70% of EFI Hub. My investor owns 30%. I have pledged 100% of the proceeds that I would receive as part of my stake to be donated further to philanthropy and non-profit organizations. Of the capital that will come to my capital which is in my share, 30% of which I want to commit, and I have committed to UNHCR programs of refugee rehabilitation and resettlement, especially in Rwanda, and a couple of other countries outside Rwanda as well. So that'll be like one of the main focus. And other 70% of the capital I'm committing to non-profit organizations in, which are working towards women empowerment, especially in the education space. While the UNHCR is direct donation that will be made, the other donations that will be done in the space of women empowerment will be done through a non-profit or a foundation or a trust that I'll set up. And yeah, that's the way to go further for me.
Anu, of course, from sources that we've been going through, reading a few of the things, says or mentions that this could rather be the biggest chunk of money that goes into philanthropy from an individual. Tell me, what do you see this money that you're putting into UNHCR and the money that's going in towards women empowerment tackling? What is the immediate response that you want to see as of on the back of this money?
I don't look at an instant gratification. This is a long-term project. This is a long-term investment. Michael, I had very humble beginnings. I started, and it was a very tough start, a lot of social and family resistance. And, when I wanted to work, I worked in some very male-dominated professions, private equity or M&A, and even tech is highly male-dominated. As a woman, I feel like there is so much of lack of infrastructure and support, basic support, may that be in terms of education or career. And I feel like if I can make difference in someone's life, that for me is the biggest impact ever. Even if one individual, one girl, if she gets an opportunity to study and make a career and be a CEO someday, that will be the biggest achievement of my life. And that's pretty much the thought process that I've carried all throughout. It isn't about money. In fact, it's good you mentioned that mine would be the highest ever donation, a single person donation made to the continent, especially in the philanthropic space. And everyone actually keeps on asking me like, why are you giving all that money away? Because I don't think money is everything. I don't think it makes a lot of difference in my life. If that money makes difference in someone else's life, even if there's one girl in this entire world who gets to study, comes from the beginning like I had and gets to be a CEO someday, has a multi-million-dollar exit, that'll be the biggest achievement of my life. And my constant work was to break that glass ceiling. It was never to make $10 million or 20 or 30 or $40 million. It was always to break that glass ceiling and pave a way for others who are aspiring to be someone or something. Break those shackles, the social shackles, or the stigma that is attached, or the stereotypes which is attached with being a woman from a certain background. That's precisely what I'm fighting, and hence I don't think I am making a huge donation or something. I'm just working towards my goal.
Anu, of course, we know that you'll be setting up a separate non-profit, and do you have a name for it already?
I don't as yet, but it's not really a non-profit, but it'll be more like a trust or a foundation that we'll set up, through which we will support the other non-profits working in the women empowerment.
And of course, that conversation with the co-founder of EFI Hub, Shah.